In the beginning there was a mute king, Mathavavadiha. He kept in his mouth the fire called Agni Vasvanara, Agni of all men. The king remained silent for the fear of losing the fire he had in his mouth. A Brahman Gautama provoked him, succeeded in driving out the fire, and the fire erupted into the world. As Agni burnt the land eastward, the king and the Brahman followed Agni on the scorched path. The Brahman asked the king why Agni had fallen from his mouth when he had heard a certain invocation and not before. The king answered, because ghee was mentioned in that invocation, and Agni loved the taste of ghee. Thus, the world was created. And out of chaos, the orderly and complex cosmos arose. Cosmos, the physical universe of things seen and touched, and the spiritual entities that existed beyond. The gods lived up above, observing the world below, enjoying life unfolding between humans, animals, and plants. Humans in turn looked up for guidance, searching for signs and clues of what the future might have held. The starry sky took lifelike shapes connecting the lights of the past. The sky told stories, remembered legends, and provided clues. This celestial dome remained unchanged and cyclical, acting as a reference point for human lives. When human consider, in its etymological sense, is to consult the stars. And through that, humans tried to grasp a sense of existence and of place in the world. In 1968, humans reached the seat of the ancient gods. They sat in the sky and looked down at the earth and all its species. Earth was taken in as a whole for the first time. Home. Home as never seen before. Whole, complete from a distance. This scientific wonder led to a spiritual discovery. This scene was witnessed by the astronauts orbited the moon. The photograph they took showed an imagined Earth, so familiar yet more wondrous than our everyday sunrise. Here, the Earth rose up from the lunar landscape. Soon postal stamps depicting the scene of Earthrise crossed the human terrains and quoting the book of Genesis, "In the beginning, God created heavens and the earth." How fitting it was on Christmas Eve, the celebration of the pagan winter solstice, the shortest day and the longest night, the symbolic death and rebirth of the sun. Yet, it was all here before, all here in different overlapped times. The geological time of rocks, soil, and climate, longer than life. The medium time, concerning the course of rivers and streams, which dance on the planet's surface to the sound of their own music. And the short time of seasons and living beings. It was all here before. The forests, the deserts, the prairies, the rivers and the glaciers, the big mammals and the imperceptible microbes, the small algae and the complex trees, the chemical reactions, the parasitism, the symbiosis, the food chains of eat or be eaten. Life unfolding at each turn around the sun, cycle after cycle, all in this blue planet, floating in the immense sky. Food is the connection from distant and exotic landscapes to domestic backyards, going near and far, stretching across the Earth's surface. It connects the sun above and the soil below, like a vertical axis of life. It prompts us to connect with the immense stars, as well as the microbes, in our bodies and in the world around. Food crosses the macro and the micro at the scale of the body. Thus, what is deemed food is the physical mediator that spans across scales so boundless that its reach is mainly invisible, some too far, some too small, some too embedded. Its ripple effects become hard to see even when food is held in our hands. Food also stretches throughout epochs and seasons, embodying soil and climate, fauna and flora, developed along millennia. It encompasses the traditions of groups of humans. It carries history and identity in crops, gestures, and in the lands. Growing food is an activity that dialogued with the earth and the universe. When the rhythms of the sky influenced crops, fields were assigned to priests to stay in close connection with the divine. In the garden of Udikole, outside the city walls of Istanbul, the soil holds species from the 6th century. In each row of crops, there is a unique permanence over thousands of seasons. It's a place that reconnects the people of Istanbul across centuries through its soil. Through the repetition of gestures complying with a strict calendar of seasons, the farmers at different times could place the same cadence in the same place. Food may be eaten in just a few minutes, an instant, but it takes centuries of knowledge and culture to accomplish its art, to gather the different foodstuff, to develop a variety of breeds, to move unknown food produce across continents, and to create suitable recipes so that the gestures, meanings, and the rules of that preparation are perfected. In a moment, food connects us with our ancestors and the history we built around it. In that same moment, food can also connect us with our future generations. Food carries beliefs and values across time and scale. It also carries an attitude towards earthly species and fellow human beings. It is empathy, that it acknowledges the position of our body in relation to the world. In Plato's Symposium, one of the eulogies to love defined it as the interconnected spirits that fill the gaps of the universe. In the same way, food could be seen as the omnipresent agent of empathy, one that communicates between time and dimensions. In this sense, food connects our bodies with the surrounding world. From territories of the outer space to invisible beings and chemical processes, to other animal and plant species, food carries our identity as individuals and as part of a community, linking the stories of the past to hopes of the future, across space and time. Still, nothing is more intimate than eating. What somebody sees can be seen by others. What somebody hears can be heard by others. But what somebody eats, nobody else can eat. Food is absorbed into our bodies, digested by our organs, and it interacts with the microbes that inhabit us. There's nothing more private, more introverted, more turned inward on itself. On the symbolic dimension, eating is beyond embodying the physical matter of food. Sharing a meal, we become the same. Sharing matter, we share spirit. Food rituals engage us with each other. There, the act of eating possesses simultaneously the most introverted and the most communal actions, our bodies perform. On a micro scale, the number of transfusions between nutrients inside and outside a body are as such that if our vision range were wider and sharper, humans must appear as epicenters of hyper-oscillations. Emanating with great speed are the microbes carried on gaseous particles. What is thought as an individual body would account for so many exchanges that should better be described as a site. Bodies, then, are sites of multi-species manifesting their interdependence, a micro-ecosystem between the host and its parasitic inhabitants. What is commonly thought of as me is more accurately said, we. Eating means depriving the world of something in order to stay alive. Everything that's eaten is dead. Death in exchange of life, us or them. Food can be healing, it can be lethal. So food is deemed sacred and protected by beliefs. Growing food, preparing food, and consuming food are wrapped in gestures of the past. Feasting and drinking are memories of rituals and sacrifices. On the island of Utopia, according to Thomas More, people felt that slaughtering our fellow creatures gradually destroyed the sense of compassion, which is the finer sentiment of which our human nature is capable. The very act of slaughtering could turn the sacrificer into a being unable to experience empathy, and it is a tragedy that must be prevented. Animal sacrifices are bonded in rituals to make peace with our gods. This is no random affair. Each culture sets out traditions to ensure the sacrificed are thanked. Sacrificial beings are grown or reared, not hunted. Hunting is when agreements are not reached. Upon entering the sacrificial altar, humans walk alongside the animals, not for confinement, but as an act of camaraderie. During the ceremony, grains are dropped on the heads of the animals, so the movement of their heads would signal consent. After the gift of the divine fire, symbolizing wisdom and at the time allowing men to cook, Prometheus left the archetypal sacrificial tradition to humans. The story goes that in order to trick Zeus and to give humans meat, Prometheus wrapped bones in fat to burn, offering the gods only the smoke that would rise vertically to the sky. Zeus punished him to be tied to a rock and have his liver devoured by an eagle every single day. His liver, as all livers, would regenerate in the night, so he would suffer the pain in eternity. The ancient Greeks regarded the liver as the seat of life, soul, and intelligence. The indestructibility of soul was connected to the regenerative capability of the liver as an organ to be immortal. Native American hunters shared mouthfuls of raw bison livers after hunting to allow the regeneration of fatigued bodies. The liver's ability to be immortal was perhaps why the famed Etruscan diviners devoted different sections of a sheep's liver to different deities, in the interest of reading the future. In the contemporary age, we finally locked hands with the diviners. Divination is a way of reading the nightfall around us, to connect humanity's intelligence with what's out there. Together we progress knowledge from science to the embodiment of the invisible. With nothing evidential to see, we fall back on the innate ability to sense. Sensing as if possessing the antenna of empathy, we learned to embrace the unknown with questions, but not with fears. Through this act, an invisible thread linked humans past to humans in the present and towards humans of the future. The thread reaches out towards the non-humans, the otherworldly, the dead, the yet unborn, and the divine. Time, although standing still, is simultaneous and synchronized, as a glow. When we look back on the events of 1968, what exactly did the astronauts see from the orbit of the moon? It must have felt like a lucid dream, with all the knowns and the unknowns encapsulated on a blue marble. The compactness of our planet in the distance have turned it ever more wondrous. For a moment, we could emanate ourselves so vast that micro and macro collapsed into one. Was this the common future? Was it the common past? It is a phenomenon that us of the present, so scientifically brought up, possesses no vocabulary in explaining.